All right. Are we good?
We're good.
All right. First off, I want to thank everybody for being here to talk about the Take Care of Americans Veterans Act, which is the largest expansion of health care and benefits for millions of veterans in the last decade. The Take Care of American Veterans Act delivers on promises that we've made to put veterans back in charge and not to have the bureaucracy in charge. The bill that's coming before us includes an expansion of the Choice Act and Mission Act, expanding community care and health care access for veterans so they can get the best health care close to home and without delay. It also expands substance abuse treatments. This bill increases benefits for severely disabled veterans like our friend, Army veteran Eric Edmondson and his family, who are full-time caregivers. Families like theirs haven't seen benefit increases in 30 years. The bill increases benefits to Gold Star families for the first time in 20 years. And finally, the bill delivers on the major Richard Starr Act for combat wounded disabled veterans. The bill cuts through a lot of bureaucracy that slows down so many parts of the VA. As an agency, whether that's reducing fraud or waste or building a new VA facility, I'm pushing for this bill because we have found a pathway to finally get these benefits and transformations done for the first time in years. It is physically responsible to do so. With that, we have several that are here. First off, we are joined by our
Veterans can get the benefits that they are eligible for. Simply put, we must never stop improving how we serve our veterans. This is one of the most comprehensive veteran packages that we've seen in years, and Chairman Bost and every other member on that VA committee needs to be applauded for that. What does it do? It expands access to care. It provides care that is actually closer to home, and it brings together dozens of bipartisan bills. I know that's kind of a dirty word here in D.C., but it's critical because at the end of the day, we need to take care of the people who take care of us. But behind every veteran is a family that is actually sacrificed too. And so many times we focus on the veterans as we should, but we also need to focus on the veterans' families. This bill recognizes those sacrifices by expanding support for the veterans' caregivers and the veterans' families, which we think is also extremely critical. When someone volunteers to defend our country, we make them a promise. If they come home wounded, if they need health care or their families need support, America will be there, as we should. This bill helps ensure that America keeps this word. So thank you for all you've done, Chairman Bost, and thank you for all of the organizations that have shown up. And most of all, thank you to the veterans and their families for doing what they signed up to do.
Thank you. Now, the next person I want to invite up, let me tell you that though he supports everything in the bill, he has worked tirelessly for years. I'm not talking slightly, for years on the Richard Starr Act. And he has championed it, and he has fought with leadership, and he's searched out so that it does and that it will become law so that there is the pay for. And with that, Representative Gus Bilirakis, please come forward and address this issue that we know how much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate the chairman, the great chairman. He's doing an outstanding job, and all the VSOs that are here. We could not do it without you. We're one team. We have an opportunity, folks, to make history with the Richard Starr Act and all of these bills that we've been working on for many, many years. They've come out of the VA committee, but we didn't have it paid for, and they've stalled for all these years. So this is the time to get it done. So today I'm honored to stand in strong support of the Taking Care of America's Veterans Act. First and foremost, this legislation delivers long overdue justice through the inclusion of key provisions of the Major Richard Starr Act. I promised Major Richard Starr that we would get this done, and I have to keep my promise. And this is our opportunity, folks. While I remain committed to achieving full concurrent receipt for all disabled veterans, as my father did for so many years, this package brings us significantly closer to that goal by providing immediate relief to nearly 60,000 combat injured veterans. For far too long, medically retired service members who were forced to leave the military because of combat-related injuries have faced an unconscionable injustice. Although they earned both military retirement pay through years of honorable service and VA disability compensation through the wounds they sustained defending our nation, federal law has denied them the full benefit they earn, and that is wrong, folks. They have been forced to pay what many rightly call, I believe this, the wounded veterans tax. We must end it. It is simply wrong. These brave men and women did not ask to be wounded. As you know, they did not ask for the military careers to be cut short. They have been penalized simply because they answered America's call and sacrificed in combat. This legislation begins in the right direction. Again, it takes us away from what's going on now, folks, which is a great injustice. It restores benefits to these heroes who have earned it through both their service and their sacrifice. Veterans deserve more than promises and empty rhetoric. They deserve action. They deserve results. And this package delivers meaningful results while honoring the legacy of my friend, Major Richard Starr. And again, his brother is here with us supporting the package. He fought courageously, not only on the battlefield, but also here at home to correct this injustice before his passing. His wonderful wife as well fought for this legislation. But this legislation goes far beyond the Major Richard Starr provisions. Thanks to our great chairman, it restores veterans' choice in health care by strengthening access to care both inside and outside the VA, ensuring that health care decisions are made by veterans and their doctors and not Washington bureaucrats. We've had enough. It expands earned benefits for catastrophically disabled veterans, caregivers, and surviving spouses by eliminating outdated policies that have unfairly denied families the support they deserve. It also ensures that surviving spouses, very important, who choose to remarry are no longer subjected to unnecessary financial penalties. My father worked on this for many years. The bill modernizes the VA claim system by cutting unnecessary red tape, improving disability examinations and the appeals process, and helping veterans receive the benefits they have earned more quickly and with greater transparency. So important. It also invests in the future by strengthening mental health services, expanding access to care in rural communities, improving prosthetics and caregiver support, and enhancing transition assistance for service members entering civilian life, and modernizing VA facilities so they can better serve the next generation of veterans. Our veterans kept their promise, this is the bottom line, to America. They never asked whether serving would be convenient or easy. They simply answered the call, put on the uniform, and defended our freedoms. Now it is our turn to keep our promise to them. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting the Taking Care of America's Veterans Act. Together we can ensure that America's veterans receive the health care, the benefits, and respect they have earned through their service and sacrifice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gus.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now we'd like to go and have some people that are involved with this, and one of the first ones that we want to bring up, we wish that Richard Starr himself was here, but his brother David is here, and I'd love to have him come up and say a few words about how important this legislation is.
Thank you, sir. I am retired First Sergeant David Starr, brother of Major Richard Starr. President Lincoln called on America to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. Takava keeps this promise. Its cornerstone, the Major Richard Starr Act, restores earned retirement pay to combat disabled veterans forced from service before 20 years. Our estimate is that 125 combat wounded veterans die each month without receiving their earned retirement pay. This pay supports families, children, and it honors their sacrifice. My brother Richard died waiting for this bill to pass. Our family and the 59,000 combat wounded veterans deserve action. Pass Takava and send it to the President now. Thank you.
Representing AMVETS is Paul Shipley, National Commander.
Sir.
Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the more than 250,000 AMVETS members and the millions of veterans and their families, thank you, Chairman Bost, Chairman Moran, the members of Congress that support this legislation, and the 23 organizations that have worked together to move the Take Care of America's Veterans Act forward. Let me be clear. AMVETS opposed the changes to the VA disability ratings for sleep apnea and tinnitus when they were first introduced years ago. We continue to oppose those changes today. We do not believe that one generation of veterans should bear the burden of paying for another's benefits. But in advocacy, as in battle, you must respond to the realities that are present and work with accurate, up-to-date information. The rating changes are moving forward regardless of whether this legislation becomes law. But the question before Congress is whether the resulting monies stay within the VA and strengthen veterans' benefits and the benefits for survivors and the benefits for their spouses, or whether they disappear back into the Treasury. This bill chooses veterans. It allows Congress to finally deliver on the priorities that AMVETS has advocated for year after year, including the Major Richard Starr Act, and the more than 60 other long overdue improvements for veterans, caregivers, and their survivors. AMVETS will never stop fighting to protect veterans' benefits. When changes are imminent, as is the case here, I want you to know that AMVETS will fight to ensure that every dollar stays where it belongs, serving Americans' veterans, their families, and their survivors. And that's why passing this legislation is so important. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have the Military Officers Wounded Warrior Project, Jose Ramos.
Thank you, Chairman Bost, members, community partners, and veterans and families standing here today. The Take Care of America's Veterans Act represents years of bipartisan, bicameral improvements to improve care, benefits, services for millions of service members, veterans, caregivers, and their families. It includes majors of dozens of pieces of legislation that we've advocated for, to include the Major Richard Starr Act. But I'd like to share a story of why this bill is important to us. When I first lost my arm in 2004, I met a young Army soldier by the name of Eric Castillo at Walter Reed. He suffered a devastating head trauma due to penetrating or shrapnel injuries. Needing intensive rehabilitation, Eric would require significant support for the rest of his life. I've never forgotten Eric, his family, or those families who care for the most catastrophically injured warriors. Today, Wounded Warrior Project, through our Independence Program, cares for the most catastrophically injured. We do so by assisting individuals like Eric and his family, as well as other warriors who are living with severe brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, and severe disabilities. We help them pursue greater independence while supporting the families who make their lives possible at home. The Briley-Edmondson Act is just one of the many bills inside TCAVA. It recognizes the real and continuous cost of care to help families afford essential care, transportation, and everyday services. This is more than just financial relief. It is great stability, better care, and respite for families whose service has never ended. We may not agree with how we got here, but doing nothing today would leave these families with carrying an unacceptable burden for years to come. For those warriors, this is about dignity, security, and independence. This package represents a meaningful opportunity to deliver long-standing, overdue progress for those who have waited too long. Wounded Warrior Project urges Congress to seize this opportunity and pass TCAVA. Thank you.
Next, we have the Military Officers Association of America, Lieutenant Gene Brian T. Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman.
Oh, you were around somewhere.
Well, thank you, Chairman Bost, and thanks to everyone who's here today, and thank you for your leadership and commitment to taking care of America's veterans, their families, and their survivors. Like others have already said, MOA believes that the nation makes a promise to those who serve, their families, and their survivors, and it doesn't end when service ends. The Take Care of America's Veterans Act keeps that promise. I'm going to let others extol the virtue of the bill, but I want to talk about a couple key points about this moment in time in particular. Veterans don't need this legislation tomorrow. They don't need it even today. Veterans needed this legislation yesterday and the day before that, and their families and survivors as well. It is already well past time to make this happen, and we have a unique but a fleeting opportunity to make sure that we never make this choice again. Today is the opportunity to do that, and we need to take advantage of it so we can provide the support to tens of millions of veterans, family members, and survivors that TCAVA covers. Now, the funding mechanism here is not standard, and it's already been talked about a little bit. It is not an approach that anyone likes or prefers, but the alternative is unacceptable. Doing nothing risks having veterans' funds inevitably return to the Treasury with nothing to show for it except reduced ratings and the frustration of once again going back to square one. That is unacceptable. That would be the worst case for our veterans, our families, and our survivors, and we choose not to take that path. We should also be clear that no veteran who currently is rated for the associated conditions will see a change or reduction in their existing rating, period. Any changes to those rating schedules would only apply prospectively going forward to future claims with an assurance that future veterans will continue to receive the care that they need for these conditions from the VA regardless of how their ratings are calculated. And last and finally, for those who worry that this sets a precedence, a dangerous precedence, this is said with respect for, but directed squarely to our congressional friends who are here with us today. Please make no mistake, we all consider this to be a one-off situation unique to the opportunity we have now, and any future attempt to deviate from the standard practice and continue to congressionally legislate changes to the disability ratings and standards will be met with the strongest opposition possible. Hard stop. Today is not a day about just passing legislation. It is about keeping the promises of the people who have sacrificed for this country. Again, I thank you all for being here. I thank the chairman for his leadership, and I thank you all for supporting the TCAVA bill.
Thank you. Next, from the American Legion, Mario Marquez.
Hi, good afternoon. Leadership is about carefully evaluating the facts, making difficult decisions, and accepting responsibility for those actions and those decisions. That has defined the American Legion for over 107 years. I want to thank the members of Congress who are here today for their commitment to America's veterans. Progress only happens when leaders are willing to tackle difficult issues and keep veterans at the center of the conversation. The American Legion fulfilled its responsibility to carefully evaluate legislation and review every provision. And then we engage directly with members of Congress and stakeholders to seek improvements, explore alternatives, and exercise our own independent judgment. Since reaching the conclusion, we've continued to hear concerns of those who oppose the legislation and also the voice of those who support it. We recognize that reasonable people have reached different conclusions, and we respect those differences. Leadership, though, also requires more than identifying problems. It requires offering solutions. After years of working alongside dedicated organizations and advocates who have devoted their entire professional lives to serving America's veterans, the American Legion believes this legislation represents the strongest path forward. It has earned meaningful bipartisan and bicameral support, making it the most viable opportunity to deliver lasting, positive change for the veterans we pledge to serve. Whether standing with the majority or standing alone, the American Legion has consistently been on the right side of history when we advocate for legislation that best serves veterans and our membership, including TCAVA. We urge Congress and the administration to advance these provisions without delay, so they can deliver the support and the care our nation's veterans have earned. Whether you support or oppose this legislation, one thing is undeniable. Because we chose to engage, the entire veterans community is having a serious conversation. And we know that they are now aware of the barriers that continue to delay veterans legislation. The American Legion has never been afraid to take on difficult fights when we believe veterans will ultimately be better served. We've fulfilled our responsibility to engage and negotiate, and we will keep fighting because America's veterans deserve more than a promise. They deserve progress. Thank you.
From the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, Meredith Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all of the other organizations here who have remembered the caregivers who are so valuable to the veterans for whom they care and who often become survivors. My name is Meredith Beck, and I'm here on behalf of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, representing the 14.3 million military and veteran family caregivers across this country. For far too long, America's veterans, caregivers, and survivors have heard that help is on the way. They've been promised this for decades, and they simply can't wait any longer. Like Mr. Edmondson testified in a hearing last December, this bill will help them now. Everyone here today supports this bill because it will help tens of millions of our fellow Americans. Reasonable people can disagree about policy, process, or legislative strategy, but our obligation to keep our word and address the desperate needs of those we serve should not be in question. Today, the choice is simple. We can let the VA finalize the rule and send the dollars back to the Treasury, or we can send them where they belong, to enhance much-needed support for survivors, increase compensation to the most catastrophically wounded, ill, and injured, help caregivers re-enter the workforce when their caregiving journey is complete, ensure access to care, and so much more. It's time to choose action over inaction. This bill will have a tremendous positive impact on the people it is designed to support. On behalf of military and veteran caregivers, we strongly urge you to support the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For a Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, Bonnie Carroll.
Good afternoon. I lost my husband, Brigadier General Tom Carroll, in a military aviation accident. In the quiet aftermath of that loss, I experienced what far too many military families know all too well. The grief is overwhelming, and the support can fade far too quickly. That experience is why TAPS was founded, to ensure that no surviving family has to face that journey alone. On my husband's headstone are 3 simple words that have become our mission. Love lives on. They are more than an inscription. They are a promise that the families of our fallen will never be forgotten, and that the sacrifice of their loved one will continue to be honored through action, not just words. For the past 5 years, TAPS has advocated for the Love Lives On Act, and we are deeply grateful to see these provisions included in the Taking Care of Veterans Act. Ending the remarriage penalty is long overdue. No surviving spouse should have to choose between finding happiness again and keeping the benefits their loved one earned through a lifetime of service and sacrifice. Restoring eligibility for benefits such as the dependency and indemnity compensation and the survivor benefit plan, recognizing that these benefits were earned, not gifts to be taken away because someone chose to rebuild their life. For young surviving spouses of the post 9/11 generation, many of whom are raising young children on their own, this change restores dignity, provides financial security, and honors the enduring promise our nation made to the families of those who have given all, allowing surviving spouses to retain their benefits upon remarriage at any age is one of the important provisions within this larger veterans package that benefits the surviving community as a whole. It also increases dependency and indemnity compensation for the first time in over 30 years, impacting more than 600,000 surviving families. It expands access to enhanced DIC for surviving spouses of those who die from ALS. It allows research on the impact toxic exposures has on the descendants of veterans. It eliminates the wounded veteran tax for 59,000 medically retired combat injured veterans, providing long overdue financial security for these veterans and their survivors, and improves the lives of millions of veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors. We understand why not everyone supports the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. If we thought the proposed rule would not be finalized by the end of the fiscal year, many of the 23 organizations standing here today would take a different position. Since that is not the case, we ask ourselves, and those opposed, one very simple question. If the choice is between returning billions in VA funding to the Treasury, where it can be redirected to other priorities, or passing the Take Care of Veterans Act and ensuring those funds remain dedicated to veterans, caregivers, and survivors, which would you choose? Thank you, Chairman Bost, and all of the members here today for supporting the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, honoring the families, caring for the living for the lifetime that follows.
Thank you so much. Now we have Concerned Veterans of America, Darren Selnick.
Thank you, Chairman Bost, for your enduring leadership, which this bill would not happen if it wasn't for you and your Marine spirit going forward. And I want to say amen over the motorcycle. Amen to what all of you have said before, all the organizations. I'm a member of a lot of these organizations. And it's good to see the unification of the veteran community over something that's just so important and so historic. The Take Care of America's Veterans Act builds on the success of the Mission Act by making veterans' health care choice a lasting guarantee under the law and ensuring that the Mission Act is finally faithfully followed. And that is really important, that health care is veteran-centric. Concerned Veterans for America has long fought to ensure our nation honors its promise to those who serve by delivering the care they have earned. And they get it the way they want it, not the way bureaucrats want to give it. That is important. And as was said earlier, this is what it means to keep Lincoln's promise, to care for him who have borne the battles for his widow and orphan. That's why you have 60 bills combined in this, covering health care, covering disability, covering all the things that previous speakers have talked about. It really is a comprehensive bill, and I know I've gone through every single page, and that's not easy. But lastly, America's veterans have fulfilled their commitment to our nation. Now it's time for lawmakers to fulfill theirs. We urge Congress to seize the day, carpe diem, to save veterans' lives and pass the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. Thank you.
Now the Veterans Justice Alliance, Michael Youngman.
What is it we're doing here? Do we have to come and beg for what veterans deserve? Congress should be ashamed of themselves that it comes to this. How many organizations do we have here? Hold that sign up. There is a reason why we are here. demanding this. The discussion, the debate is over. We can no longer wait for what veterans have earned. They deserve these benefits. I'm going to turn it over to John Beasley, an affected veteran, and I want you to hear from him how he is affected. And if you're debating on whether you want to support Takava or not, we don't have years. We have tomorrow. John Beasley.
Hello. My name is Lieutenant Colonel John Beasley, U.S. Army retired, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Veterans Justice Alliance. After 3 deployments, twice to Afghanistan and 1 to the Horn of Africa, I thought I had done everything right. I had completed an Ivy League MBA program. I was hired at a Fortune 50 financial services company and been promoted to director, until I suddenly became ill with a PACT Act disease that went systemic. In the space of 2 years, I went from a healthy 30-something to a guy that couldn't walk more than 20 minutes, multiple surgeries, 25 pills a day to manage my disease. Unexpectedly medically retired at DOD 100%. I lost my health and my career, and I was left wondering how I was going to be able to cover the rent next month. This isn't about grand plans or dreams. This is about sick, injured, and ill combat veterans wanting to retain the smallest version of their old lives. You can't give us back our health, our careers, or how we used to be. This is the least that Congress should do for us. Thank you.
Here, here.
This is our opportunity. Do we agree with the offsets? No. But if they happen and this fails, what will you say then? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next we have Mission Roll Call. Jimmy Whaley.
Thank you, Chairman Bost, and thanks to all of you. Mission Roll Call exists to ensure veterans and their families have a voice in the decisions that affect them. We do this through surveys, polls, and in-person discussions across this country. We listen. As Congress considers the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, we want to understand what the veteran community thinks, so we ask them directly. More than 1,100 veterans, family members, and caregivers have participated in our surveys so far. Over 70% of those respondents said they support this legislation, with another 18% being neutral. That means only 11% of veterans are opposed to this legislation. Further, nearly 60% of these respondents also believe that the rating schedule should be updated as medicine advances, with a small minority, 14%, believing the schedule should never change. And supporting this further, only 12% believe that preserving existing disability compensation policies should be prioritized over expanding benefits to the greatest number of veterans. Mission Roll Call's previous surveys explain why the support of the 62 provisions within Takava is so strong, as represented by this august group in front of you now. Over the past 2 years plus, we have surveyed more than 25,000 veterans and their families. In dozens of surveys, here's what we found out. Over 95% support the Major Richard Starr Act, allowing combat disabled medical retired veterans to receive the care and VA disability they deserve. Over 65% support the Access Act and expanding community care options. More than 80% support expanding benefits for the most severely wounded. Almost 90% support expanding specialized TBI care and research. Nearly every provision of this bill shows strong support among the community in Mission Roll Call's research. Veterans and their loved ones deserve clear information, honest debate, and the opportunity to make informed decisions based on the facts. That's the role of Mission Roll Call. We listen. We keep asking veterans what they think. We'll keep bringing credible research to policymakers, and we'll continue ensuring that the voices of veterans remain at the center of this conversation. Thank you.
So one more speaker, and when I say last, definitely not least, is the Vietnam Veterans of America, Michael Femino. Right there you are.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of Congress, and all of the VSOs and MSOs who have tirelessly worked with us on this important legislation and bringing us to this point today. Vietnam Veterans of America proudly support the Take Care of Americans Veterans Act. Normally, when we gather here today, it's to right one wrong, fix one problem, tweak some program. Today's different. Today's very different. Today, we're excited to see a robust, bipartisan, bicameral package of over 60 bills that try to tackle the real daily challenges of life after service. This package delivers for those suffering from toxic exposures to surviving spouses and combat injured retirees. It helps rural veterans needing better access to care, to the family member who helps as a caregiver to a veteran in need. This broad-based approach and these types of ways of going at these problems, we can better support the unique needs of a very complex overall veteran community. And for those reasons, as those stated by everyone here today, and thanks to everyone, we are here today to urge your support and the swift passage of the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. Thank you so much.
So I want to close in saying just thank you to the groups and organizations that are up here. As everyone has heard the arguments as we move forward, we'll do that in a second. Okay. Everybody, the groups and organizations have worked together. We have discussed, we've argued, but it's time to move forward. I would rather argue and come up with a bill that will go to the Senate and go to the President's desk, and then the promises that we're making to each one of these groups is fulfilled, rather than making a statement here in the House only to have it die in the Senate or die for the lack of a President's signature. We've done the hard work. We will continue to work now. We hope to pass the rule. We hope to pass by the end of the week the bill and send it over to the Senate. We do have commitment from the Senate. They'll be moving forward with it. It's hard work. You know, I've learned very much on working this bill when all of us were kids growing up that we always said, well, that'll take an act of Congress. Well, when you deal with an act of Congress like this, you understand why they use that term. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Chairman, quick question for you. A lot of the veterans groups that were here today expressed some concerns about how the bill said.
Right.
Do you feel like you need to make a stronger statement about this being a one-time thing? Do you feel like you effectively communicated that to your opponent?
I think I have, but I'd be glad to do it here. Let me tell you, this veteran, grandson of veterans, son of veterans, nephew of veterans, father of veterans, grandfather of 2 veterans, will do everything to protect the veterans and make sure that they receive their benefits. When you see an option like what we have in this case, that something would go away and that money that would be taken away from these programs that we've been trying to expand for years, we had to make a decision. I will guarantee you that until the day I leave Congress, and then after, I will continue to fight for our veterans until the day of my last breath. Any other questions? Thank you all for being here, and thank you for standing in the heat.